The day that totally changed my marriage started out normal. It was just another day following our usual routine. But then my husband said something that was surprising and weird, and it totally messed up the comfortable image we had of our relationship. It sent us off on a journey that took us to new and unknown places in our love lives and our personal lives. My name's Elnir and I'm 32. I live with my husband Charles in Grand Island, Nebraska. He's 36 and he's a successful entrepreneur. His electronic cigarette company is a testament to his ambition and drive. We've been married for 7 years. Our home is a haven of tranquility, and it's near the Oasis Island water park. Our days are filled with a comforting predictability, and it's lulled us into a sense of complacency. My mornings begin early, and it's a ritual of devotion to my husband's well-being. I love making a tasty breakfast, a small act of love that starts his day off right as he heads out into the busy world of business. Once he's gone, I take it easy. I keep up with my fitness routine by hitting the gym regularly, and I really enjoy our afternoons spent hanging out and sharing laughs. I love making breakfast, and it's a small way of showing him I care. It sets the tone for his day as he heads out into the busy world of business. My routine is more relaxed, and I make sure to keep up with my fitness by going to the gym regularly. I love spending afternoons with friends, laughing and sharing secrets. They're a big part of my social life. Charles is totally consumed by his work. His day is a whirlwind of meetings and deadlines. His dedication has given us a comfortable lifestyle, free from the financial worries that so many others have. We live in a world of privilege and stability, and our home is our sanctuary. We're pretty comfortable and our marriage is pretty harmonious, but there are some subtle problems. Charles's family lives in the busy city of Rapid City, South Dakota, and they're really affluent and sophisticated, which is pretty different from my more humble upbringing. They're a successful family. They're always on the go doing business and going on fancy vacations. They're not big on family get-togethers. Their whole thing is all about the fancy events and parties, which is totally different from me. I'm more into the simple stuff. Their world is all about being polished and having manners, and they're always doing these impromptu get-togethers and just chillin' at home. They're all about polished elegance and social graces, and they think unplanned get-togethers and home-cooked meals are unrefined. That's a big difference from the comfortable informality I love. Family get-togethers, though rare, were always full of warmth and camaraderie that made us feel close, even if we were far apart. In the middle of the laughter and shared stories, one person stood out: Ethan, my husband. Charles is my identical twin brother. In the early days of our relationship, I often had a hard time telling the two of them apart. They looked so much alike. I really enjoy cooked meals, but they're very different from the relaxed vibe I love. We didn't get to see each other that often, but when we did, it was always really nice. We'd always have a good laugh and share stories, and it felt like we were all in the same room, even though Charles and I are very different. Charles and Ethan are very similar in looks and personality. They both have the same easy smile, warm personality, and effortless charm. But they're very different in their lives. Ethan, who played soccer professionally, likes to be spontaneous and adventurous. He travels a lot, goes to parties, and always has new experiences. Charles, on the other hand, is very routine-oriented. He's an office guy, and he and Charles are very different in that way. Ethan and Charles were like night and day. Ethan was a free-spirited bachelor who loved his independence, while Charles was more settled and domestic. One Saturday we had a rare moment of peace, a weekend free from Charles's business. We really cherished these quiet weekends, a chance to reconnect and enjoy each other's company. Then, during this peaceful moment, Charles got a message that made his day. It was Ethan, announcing he was coming to town for a soccer match. Despite their very different lives, the bond between the twins was still super strong, which shows how strong family ties can be. I shared Charles's excitement, knowing how much he loved these visits. Ethan always brought a lot of energy to our home, and his playful spirit and infectious laughter was a nice change of pace. With Ethan's arrival scheduled for the early afternoon, Charles suggested an intimate. Ethan was coming to town for a soccer match, and Charles was excited about it. Even though they had very different lives, the bond between the twins was strong. I could tell Charles was looking forward to it. He always loved visiting Ethan, and he was always full of energy and made us laugh. We were supposed to have a barbecue with just the three of them, and it was going to be a chance to relax, catch up, and enjoy each other's company. As we started getting ready for the day, there was a feeling of excitement in the air. Charles and Ethan were talking and laughing like they always did, and it made me feel warm inside. It was a good sign that they were getting along so well. We had a barbecue with just the three of us. It was a chance to chill and catch up without the stress of a fancy event. As we started getting ready, there was this vibe of excitement for the day. I could tell Charles and Ethan were just getting into their usual brotherly banter and they were laughing. It was a really nice feeling and it showed how strong their bond was. They were so connected that it felt like time and distance didn't matter in their presence. As we finished getting the food ready in the kitchen, the energy was electric. It was clear everyone was excited. Charles, the one who always plans everything, made sure everything was just right. He got the meat, the beer, and the charcoal all with just a few taps. The bond between Ethan and Charles was so strong that time and distance didn't matter when they were together. As we finished getting ready in the kitchen, the energy was electric. It was clear from the moment Ethan walked in the door that Charles had planned everything down to a T. He'd arranged for our barbecue supplies, including delicious meat, lots of beer, and charcoal, all delivered right on time. I put on a playlist of upbeat music to get everyone in the mood. The songs played as we worked together, creating a festive atmosphere. We were on the same page, working in sync, anticipating the relaxed gathering ahead. Then Charles's phone rang, announcing that Ethan had arrived earlier than expected. Charles's face lit up with a big smile as he rushed to greet his brother. His excitement was clear. I stayed on his phone. We got the supplies in no time. I set up a playlist of upbeat music to get the mood going. The songs played as we worked together and it felt like we were in sync. We were all about getting ready for the relaxed get-together. Then Charles's phone rang and it was Ethan. He was earlier than expected and Charles's face lit up with a big smile. He went to greet his brother and you could tell he was excited. I hung around for a bit thinking about the last time we'd seen Ethan. It had been almost 2 years, but I could still picture him. Even though they looked the same, Ethan had his own vibe going on. He was bold and adventurous and he stood out from his twin brother who was more reserved. When they hugged, it was like no time had passed at all. Ethan started laughing and the room filled with warmth and energy. He came over to me and he was charming me like always. I thought about the last time I'd seen Ethan almost 2 years ago and I could still picture him. Even though they looked the same, Ethan had a special energy about him. He was confident and adventurous and he stood out from his quieter twin. When they hugged, it felt like no time had passed at all. Ethan's laughter filled the room and he had this warm, energetic presence about him. He came over to me and was super charming like he always is. "You look absolutely radiant," he said, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "It seems like time forgot about you." His compliment surprised me, but I smiled. He was so direct, but it wasn't annoying. Soon the brothers started talking about old times and they were sharing memories and talking about what they wanted to do in the future. I sat down at a nearby table with a cold beer and I was pretty content watching them chat. They were so relaxed and affectionate. "You look absolutely radiant," he said, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "It seems time has forgotten you entirely." His unexpected compliment caught me off guard, but I couldn't help but smile. His directness was disarming and intriguing. Soon, the brothers were engrossed in conversation, their voices a comfortable blend of shared memories and future aspirations. I settled at a nearby table, a cold beer in hand, watching them with a quiet contentment. Their easy banter and genuine affection for each other was a testament to the unbreakable bond they shared. Noticing me, Ethan broke away from his conversation with Charles. His attention shifted to me with a warmth that sent a flutter through my heart. He approached, his smile inviting, and our conversation began. A spark of something unexpected ignited between us. "How about you, Eleanor?" Ethan inquired, his voice laced with genuine curiosity. "How are things going? Life, work, what's new, and when is that husband of yours arriving?" Ethan and I were working on a project together and he was getting to know me better. He noticed me and stopped talking to Charles. He started smiling at me and I felt a flutter in my chest. He asked me about my life, my job, and my friends. I told him about my workouts and how I like to have fun with my friends. I also told him about my days at home. But when we started talking about having kids, I sounded a little unhappy. Then I said, "I don't think now is the right time. Charles is busy with work and he wouldn't have time to enjoy being a dad. I don't want to raise a child by myself." Ethan listened to me and his eyes showed that he was thinking about what I said. He took a sip of his beer and looked thoughtful. "You're right, Eleanor. Having a kid is a big responsibility and you have to be ready for it, especially with my brother. Well, let's just say he's not always the most present." He grinned playfully, but who knows? Maybe things will change soon. His words hung in the air, hinting at something deeper beneath the playful banter. Ethan, despite his carefree demeanor, always spoke with sincerity that I could really relate to it. We spent hours talking and the afternoon just flew by. We were laughing, sharing stories, and enjoying the smell of grilling meat. The music played softly in the background, which was a nice counterpoint to our lively chatter as dusk began to settle, casting long shadows across the lawn. Charles and Ethan, their voices a harmonious blend, seemed to have an endless supply of stories and shared memories to catch up on. They were in sync. Their brotherly bond was apparent. I really connected with them. We talked for hours that afternoon and time just flew by. We shared stories and laughed, and the smell of grilling meat made us feel right at home. The music played softly in the background, and it was a nice counterpoint to our lively chatter as dusk began to settle, casting long shadows across the lawn. Charles and Ethan, their voices a harmonious blend, seemed to have an endless supply of stories and shared memories to catch up on. They were in sync. Their brotherly bond was tangible. Then, as often happens when men gather, the conversation shifted to the topic of women. Charles, his cheeks flushed with the warmth of the beer, turned to Ethan with a mischievous glint in his eyes. "So brother, what's the story?" he said, his voice laced with playful innuendo. "Tell me about your conquest. Are you still charming the ladies? How are those adventures of yours going?" I rolled my eyes as a soft laugh escaped my lips. That kind of talk no longer held any appeal for me. I felt the same way. I knew they were about to dive into a world of masculine camaraderie, a place where I was an outsider. "You're going to start with the womanizing talk, aren't you?" I teased, standing up. "I'll leave you two to your revelries while I freshen up." They both laughed. Charles was already engrossed in his conversation with Ethan, so I went back to the house, leaving them to their brotherly bonding and their shared laughter. Their laughter echoed through the twilight. I closed the bedroom door. I was getting ready for a shower and I could feel the anticipation building. I thought about Ethan and how he's got this playful energy, and I couldn't help but notice that there's something more between us. As I was standing there in the shower, I couldn't help but think about the big difference between the twins and Charles. I was about to take a shower and thinking about the twins. Charles is all about his career and has a very structured life, while Ethan is the adventurous one with a carefree attitude. He's got a lot of interesting experiences. The shower was a momentary escape, a sanctuary of solitude amidst the boisterous energy of the brothers' reunion. I got out of the shower refreshed and revitalized, put on some cool, comfortable clothes and took a breath. With his laser focus on his career and his super-structured life, it was a far cry from Ethan's adventurous spirit and carefree vibe, which made for a really interesting mix. The shower was a momentary escape, a sanctuary of solitude amidst the boisterous energy of the brothers' reunion. I got into some cool, comfortable clothes and took a breather. After coming down the stairs, I decided to check on the brothers before joining their party. I paused in the kitchen, drawn by the promise of a cold beer, a final indulgence to complete the evening. As I opened the refrigerator, I heard their laughter drifting in from the backyard. It was like a symphony of camaraderie filling the otherwise silent house. I was on my way upstairs when I heard laughter coming from the backyard. I stopped and listened for a second, and it turned out to be the brothers I hadn't seen in years. Charles was telling the others about some of the girls he'd dated in the past. He was talking about the good times they had and how he'd met them. I don't know why, but it was the first time I really got to know him. Was he uncomfortable? Was he trying to focus on the present? Whatever the reason, there he was, laughing and sharing intimate details I'd never heard before. I leaned against the counter, totally captivated. My curiosity grew with each moment. Why now, after all these years, had he chosen to open this chapter of his life? I was thinking about how he put up with both of us, and then I heard Charles's voice with a little bit of playful nostalgia in it. "Ethan," he started, "do you remember the one who put up with both of us? I saw her the other day married to a pastor. Can you believe it?" Ethan laughed and then he said, "She was always a wild one. I'm sure she's taking advantage of the pastor too." At first, I thought their conversation was just harmless reminiscing. Then I heard Charles say to his brother, "Hey, remember that girl who put up with both of us? I saw her the other day married to a pastor. Can you believe it?" Ethan laughed and said, "She was always a bit of a wild one. I'm sure she's taking advantage of the pastor too." At first, I thought their banter was just harmless reminiscing. But one phrase, one sentence stuck with me. "She put up with both of us," Ethan said. I stood there, frozen in the kitchen with a cold beer can in my hand. My mind was reeling from what they had said. "Put up with both of us," I repeated to myself. Those words kept echoing in my mind, like a dissonant melody that shattered the image I had of what had happened. I couldn't stop thinking about the phrase, "put up with both of us." My mind was reeling from the implications of their conversation. I had this image of my husband and his brother as a couple, and it just didn't add up. My head was spinning with confusion and disbelief. My heart was pounding and I felt like I was in a spiral of thoughts. Ethan was talking and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was like he was hammering away at my understanding. And what about that ex? My husband and his brother shared a woman. The thought sent me into a tailspin. I felt confused and disbelief. My heart pounded against my ribs. Their casual banter was like a frantic drumbeat. Ethan, oblivious to my presence, continued to share his revelations. Each sentence was a hammer blow to the foundation of my understanding. "What about that ex-girlfriend of mine, Charles?" He chuckled. "We were together for almost a year and no one suspected a thing." Their laughter, once a comforting sound of brotherly camaraderie, now grated on my nerves. Each shared chuckle was a testament to their shared secrets. The shock hit me and then a cold wave of, "My girlfriend, Charles." He laughed and said that we'd been together for almost a year and no one had suspected a thing. Their laughter, which used to be a comforting sound of brotherly camaraderie, now annoyed me. Each shared laugh was a testament to their shared secrets. I realized then that they'd shared women not just once but multiple times. Their past was littered with a trail of clandestine encounters and shared conquests. With each passing revelation, my anger grew, fueled by the betrayal of their secrecy. The years of hidden truths. Yet beneath the anger, I had a realization that made me angry. They had slept with other people not just once but many times. They had a lot of secret encounters and things they had done together. As I thought about it, I got more and more angry. I felt betrayed because they hadn't been honest with me. But I also felt curious. It would be interesting to be with both of them. They were twins that looked the same and had the same personalities and desires. If Charles could satisfy me in the bedroom, wouldn't Ethan be able to too? I started thinking about how Charles and Ethan were so similar, and it got me wondering what it would be like to be with both of them. They were identical twins and most people wouldn't be able to tell them apart. Their personalities and desires were so similar. If Charles could satisfy me in the bedroom, wouldn't Ethan do the same? I started thinking about it and it got me really excited. But I also felt a little worried. Would it be cheating? They were twins, two halves of the same person. Would it be like being with another man? I couldn't stop thinking about it. I had so many questions in my head. My mind was a total battlefield. I had this image of Charles, my dependable, straightforward husband, and it was totally shattered with each new revelation. I found out he had a hidden side and a past filled with adventures I had never known about. Then the conversation took an unexpected turn. My name echoed through the quiet house and I could feel a shiver run down my spine. My heart was pounding in my chest and I felt my breath catch in my throat. Why were they talking about me? "She's very pretty." Ethan's voice reached my ears and it was laced with his usual playful charm. But she seemed so focused and straightforward. "Have you ever?" I was ready to hear anything, no matter how weird it might be. I was frozen to the spot, listening for Charles's answer. What would he say? Would he think I was boring? I felt anxious as I waited for his reply. Then Charles said something calm and reasonable. He was totally normal, you know. "She's pretty traditional," Charles said, sounding a bit disappointed. "We never talk about those things." His words, though casual, hit a nerve with me. Charles's approach to intimacy was pretty straightforward and he never really talked about those kinds of things. I mean, he was a pretty traditional guy, so it was pretty normal. But he said that he never talks about that stuff and it kind of hit me. I started to wonder, did he really see me as just an ordinary woman without any adventurous desires or hidden fantasies? It was a pretty sharp contrast to the vibrant inner world I kept hidden under a veneer of normalcy. I had my own desires and fantasies, but I'd never dared to express them. I was taken aback by Charles's approach to intimacy. He was always straightforward and routine-oriented and I had fallen into step with him. I mirrored his approach, but I had my own adventurous spirit that was dormant. I wondered if he suspected that I craved something more, that I harbored secret desires and unfulfilled dreams. My heart was pounding as I listened to his confession. He was whispering conspiratorially, "Ethan, I've thought about exploring things with Eleanor, but I've never had the courage to suggest it. I think she'd be appalled. I wouldn't even know how to broach the subject." My heart was racing as I listened to his confession. His voice was barely a whisper as he told his brother, "I've thought about exploring things with Eleanor, but I've never had the courage to suggest it. I think she'd be appalled. I wouldn't even know how to broach the subject." His words sent a shockwave through me. He wanted to explore the uncharted territories of our relationship, but he was held back by his perception of me as a traditional conservative wife that I had inadvertently projected. If only he knew the thoughts I had. His words hit me like a bolt from the blue. He was eager to explore the unknown aspects of our relationship, but he was held back by the idea of me as a traditional conservative wife that I had accidentally created. If only he knew the thoughts that danced in my mind and the fantasies that flickered in the shadows of my desires. He would realize that I was far from opposed to his adventurous inclinations. My thoughts raced. Was I truly the saintly, predictable woman he perceived me to be? The truth was that I had more in common with the women. I thought about the adventurous women in his past that he talked about with such excitement. Then I had an idea. What if I took this opportunity and showed him what I'm really like? What if I show him the depths of my own desires? I was determined. I went back to the backyard feeling pretty confident. When I got there, I noticed that the vibe had changed. The laughter stopped and there was this tense silence. Charles gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, but his eyes had this flicker of something he was trying to hide like Ethan usually did. I went back to the backyard feeling pretty confident. When I got there, I noticed something was off. The laughter had stopped and there was this tense silence. Charles gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, but his eyes had this flicker of something he was trying to hide. Ethan, usually a whirlwind of playful energy, was just sitting there, nervous, fidgeting with his beer can. Charles tried to take charge of the conversation and started talking about random stuff. "How was your shower? Was the water okay?" He sounded a little too casual and I could tell he was trying to hide something. Rewind. A whirlwind of playful energy sat slumped in his chair, nervously fiddling with his beer can. Charles attempted to regain control of the conversation by steering it towards mundane topics. "How was your shower?" he inquired. "Was the water okay?" His voice was a touch too casual. I wasn't fooled by his attempt to deflect. I knew what they had been discussing, and instead of feeling offended, I felt a thrill of anticipation. A newfound sense of empowerment. It was time to lay my cards on the table. I wanted to gauge his reaction and witness the surprise on his face when he realized that seemingly to deflect. I knew what they had been discussing, and instead of feeling offended, I felt a thrill of anticipation. A newfound sense of empowerment. It was time to lay my cards on the table. I wanted to gauge his reaction to witness the surprise on his face when he realized that the seemingly traditional Eleanor was not as predictable as he had assumed. "You were talking about me, weren't you?" I interjected, my voice laced with a playful challenge. "I heard my name while I was in the kitchen. You don't have to pretend I'm not here. Feel free to continue where you left off." "I'm rather..." "Traditional Eleanor wasn't as predictable as you thought, was she?" I interrupted, my voice playful. "And you heard my name in the kitchen. You don't have to pretend I'm not here. Feel free to continue where you left off." "I'm rather..." A stunned silence fell over the patio. Charles's eyes widened in disbelief. His composure momentarily shattered. "Eleanor, calm down, love," he stammered. "It's not what you think. We were just reminiscing about some old stories from the past. No big deal." He attempted to smooth over the situation, to dismiss it as harmless banter, but I wasn't about to let the subject drop so easily. "I'm calm, my love," I reassured him. My voice was surprisingly steady, "but I'd like to understand your conversation a bit better. After all, what was it like? You were both with the same woman? Is that what you were?" I told him I was calm, my love, and I meant it. I was pretty surprised, though, because I wanted to know more about what you said. So I looked at them both and I said, "What were you saying about the woman?" Ethan looked uncomfortable in his chair and Charles tried to say the right thing. He knew that if he denied it or if he tried to change the subject, it would be bad. So he looked at his brother to see if he would support him, or if he would let him keep talking. After a moment of silence, Charles took a deep breath and said, "Yes, Eleanor. There was a time when we did that. It was a long time ago, before we got married. We enjoyed life a bit differently back then, but I never wanted to tell you because I thought I might not have understood, but I saw it. Their faces showed discomfort, but they also looked excited in a weird way. I was still curious and I wanted to know why you thought I wouldn't understand. Charles, why do you think I wouldn't understand? I asked, my voice playful. I was like, hey Charles, you never even asked me what I think about this, about us. He hesitated, clearly nervous. Then he confessed, I've always wanted to see the three of us together. I just never knew how to tell you. I didn't think you'd be receptive to the idea. He looked at me expecting a reaction. Maybe he thought I'd be scared, disgusted, or angry, but I just sat there. Then it hit me like, wait, what if he's right? Charles didn't even ask what I thought about it. He hesitated and I could tell he was nervous. The truth is, he confessed, I've always wanted to see the three of us together. I just never knew how to tell you. I didn't think you'd be into the idea. He looked at me expecting a reaction, maybe fear, disgust, or even anger. But I didn't say anything and let his words sink in. It was a surprising realization. His confession, though unexpected, made us closer. It showed his hidden desires and got me curious. Charles, I said, my voice surprisingly light. You should have told me sooner. I glanced at Ethan, who stayed silent, watching our exchange with the same intensity one felt. Charles, I stammered, surprised by my response. I think we can try. His confession was a surprise, but it made us closer. It showed me things he had been hiding and I got curious. Charles, I said, my voice light, you should have told me sooner. I looked at Ethan, who didn't say anything, looking at us with a lot of intensity. I said, a little surprised by what I said, I think we can try. Charles looked at me, not believing it, but then he looked at me with surprise and relief. He asked, his voice excited, you're really open to this? I nodded and smiled a little. The mood in the room changed. The tension went away and we both knew we were about to do something new and risky. I stood up and, a mix of curiosity and determination, Charles looked at me with a look of disbelief on his face, quickly replaced by a wave of surprise and relief. He asked, his voice full of anticipation, you're really open to this? I nodded and smiled a little. The atmosphere in the room shifted, the tension replaced by a shared understanding, a silent acknowledgement of the uncharted territory we were about to explore. Rising from my chair, I met their gazes. My voice was soft yet firm. I went to the bedroom. As we entered the room, the energy intensified. This was no longer just about curiosity or desire. It was about embarking on a journey of shared exploration, pushing boundaries and embracing the unknown. Ethan, who had been hesitant earlier, now seemed completely at ease. His eyes mirrored the excitement in Charles's gaze. It was as if this moment had been inevitable. Along we locked eyes and I said something. It was soft but firm. We went to the bedroom and the energy got stronger. This wasn't just about curiosity or desire. It was about going on a journey together, pushing boundaries and embracing the unknown. Ethan, who had been hesitant earlier, now seemed totally at ease. His eyes showed the excitement in Charles's gaze. It was like this moment had been inevitable, like a secret yearning for release. What had started as an uncomfortable conversation had turned into a shared experience, a forbidden dance of intimacy and trust. We shed our inhibitions, exploring each other's bodies with a newfound freedom. Our laughter and moans mixed in the darkness. The connection between us was undeniable, a palpable energy that bound us together. We spent hours lost in a world of sensual exploration. We had this secret thing going on and it was kind of a hot topic. What started as a conversation turned into something more, and it was like we were doing this forbidden dance of intimacy and trust. We let our guards down and started exploring each other's bodies, and it was like we were connected by this energy, like we were in this world together. We spent hours just lost in all of this and it was pretty exhilarating. It was like a symphony of sensations and it left me breathless and wanting more. In the end, we finally drifted off to sleep, our bodies still all tangled up like we were bonded in this experience. When I woke up, sunlight was streaming through the window, and it was like the room was bathed in this warm glow. Ethan said his goodbyes and left for his. The lines between fantasy and reality were blurring with each touch, each kiss. It was exhilarating, intoxicating, a symphony of sensations that left me breathless and wanting more. Exhausted but content, we finally drifted off to sleep, our bodies intertwined, a testament to the bond we had forged. When I awoke, sunlight streamed through the window, painting the room in a warm glow. Ethan bid us farewell, his departure for his soccer match leaving a bittersweet ache in my heart. As soon as he was gone, Charles pulled me close, and we surrendered to a fierce passion. The embers of the previous night reignited with a newfound intensity. Our Sunday unfolded as a tapestry of romance and adventure. Our laughter echoed through the house as we reminisced about the forbidden pleasures we had shared. The connection between us was stronger than ever. The soccer match left me feeling a bit down, but then Charles pulled me close and we got into an intense moment. The embers of the night before were reignited, and our Sunday was all about romance and adventure. Our laughter echoed through the house as we reminisced about the forbidden pleasures we had shared. Our connection was stronger than ever. Life felt exciting and we had a lot of adrenaline. We started exploring new possibilities, looking for other couples or individuals to join us on our journey. If you're curious about our next adventure, our foray into the world of swinging, let me know in the comments. Until next time, may your lives be filled with passion and the courage to explore the depths of your desires.